indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Proceed, please. Now roll call.
Yes, sir. Mayor Pro Tem Ham.
Here.
Councilmember Jones.
Present.
Councilmember Broadway.
Here.
Councilmember Pollack.
Present.
Councilmember Matthews.
Present.
Councilmember Aycock.
Here. We're all here. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes, the March 15th minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of March 15th.
Is there a
Second.
second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand, please. Okay, we have some presentations.
Mayor Pro Tem Ham, can I interject just on the voting?
I'm sorry.
Just on the voting, the clerk and I talked about this after the last meeting. Whenever you do the vote, say all in favor, raise your hand. If another member's here and they don't raise their hand, then it's actually counted as a yes vote anyway. So you'll need to say y'all's opposed as well. So if somebody wants to make sure they are is opposed, because otherwise it counts as yes for everybody because you're just not voting. Okay?
All right.
Thank you.
I believe I saw all hands, did I?
I was still writing, but I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is presentations, and Ms. Matthews, you have one. And we have some people present for that.
Okay. I will be reading the Mental Health Month Proclamation. Whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being, and whereas all Americans experience times of difficulties and stress in their lives, and whereas prevention is an effective way to reduce the burden of mental health conditions, whereas there is a strong body of research that supports specific tools that all Americans can use to better handle challenges and protect their health and well-being. And whereas mental health conditions are real and prevalent in our nation, and whereas with effective treatment, those individuals with mental health conditions can recover and lead full, productive lives. And whereas each business, school, government agency, healthcare provider, organization, and citizen shares the burden of mental health problems and has responsibility to promote mental wellness and support prevention efforts. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Pro Tem Ham, do hereby proclaim May 2021 as Mental Health Month in Goldsboro, North Carolina. As Mayor Pro Tem, I call upon the citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools in Goldsboro to recommit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of mental health, the steps our citizens can take to protect their mental health, and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people with mental health conditions. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the city of Goldsboro, North Carolina, to be affixed on this third day of May 2021.
Well, those people, this is representing the health month. Step forward.
Thank you very much. I'm Emily Peacock. I am president of the local mental health association. I have with me Maureen Pride, Bobby Jones, and Anthony Slater, part of our board. We want to thank you for the endorsement. I am going to leave some pamphlets and a poster, if it could be posted somewhere, to remind people how important our mental health issues are today. And thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for what y'all do for the community as well.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Ham. Mr. Ham. Mr.
Councilman.
Ham, do we need to make a motion to accept that proclamation? Do we need to make a motion to accept the proclamation?
No.
Okay. Just just a resolution.
Next item is the National Day of Prayer Proclamation, and Councilwoman Jones will read this.
Yes, is there anyone in the audience that's here? National Day of Prayer Proclamation. Whereas civil prayers and national days of prayer have a long and venerable history in our constitutional republic dating back to the First Continental Congress in 1775. And whereas the Declaration of Independence, our first statement as Americans of national purpose and identity, made the laws of nature and the nature's God the foundation of our United States of America, and asserted that people have inalienable rights that are God-given. And whereas created in 1952 by the joint resolution of the United States Congress, signed into law by President Harry Truman, the mission and purpose is to encourage prayer for our country and personal repentance. And whereas in 1988, legislation setting aside the first Thursday of May of each year as a National Day of Prayer was passed unanimously by the House of Congress and signed by President Ronald Reagan. And whereas the Supreme Court has affirmed the right to state legislators to open their sessions with prayer, and Supreme Court and the U.S. Congress themselves begin each day with prayer. And whereas this year Wayne County United in Prayer is hosting an annual local National Day of Prayer event. And whereas a National Day of Prayer is an opportunity for Americans of all faiths to join in united prayer to acknowledge our dependence on God and to give thanks and blessings received, to request healing for wounds endured, and to ask God to guide our leaders and bring wholeness to the United States and her citizens. Now therefore, I, Dave Ham, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Goldsboro, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim Thursday, May 6, 2021 as a National Day of Prayer. In observance of the National Day of Prayer in the City of Goldsboro, North Carolina, and commend this observance to our citizens. In witness thereof, I herego set my hand and affix the seal of the City of Goldsboro, North Carolina, this 3rd day of May, 2021.
And we have no one here representing the prayer. Okay, next item is public hearings. We have the FY 21-22 Annual Action Plan and Recommended Budget and Public Hearing presented by Community Relations.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Ham, City Council. I am here for the Annual Action Plan Recommended Budget for fiscal year 21-2022 and the public hearing. City Council action is needed to accept fiscal year 21-22 allocation of funds by the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development from the Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership Program and Community Development Grant COVID-19 programs. In addition, City Council is asked to approve the fiscal year 21-22 Annual Action Plan and budget recommendations in preparation for HUD submission deadline on May 15, 2021. HUD has awarded $349,980 in CDBG and $250,738 in home funds to the City of Goldsboro for use to develop viable urban communities by providing decent housing, suitable living environments, and expanding economic opportunities, mainly for persons of low to moderate income. The city was awarded $220,749 in CDBG coronavirus pandemic relief funds to mitigate the ongoing impacts and fund recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. This second award of CDBG-CV requires an amendment to previous plans, the process for which has occurred concurrently with the AAP process. Additionally, the city will have available approximately $174,804 in prior year CDBG funds and $665,062 in prior year home funds. Prior year balances are as of April 23rd, 2021. Due to the restrictive use of funds placed on the home program to focus on projects and or activities designed exclusively to create affordable housing for low-income households, The city has historically each year carried over a substantial amount of prior year's home funds when it has not undertaken large development projects. Staff has developed a plan to responsibly spend these funds in the upcoming fiscal year, and I did hear this mentioned in the work session. A 30-day comment period was held on April 5th, 2021 to May 7th, so the comment period is still ongoing until May 7th, 2021, with public meetings held March 25th and during the regularly scheduled April 13th meeting on Commissions on Community Relations and Development to discuss priorities and recommended budget for the 21-22 program year. On May 3rd, which is today, during City Council's regular meeting, staff will provide the City Council with a presentation, which we are doing currently, of the 2021-22 Annual Action Plan and budget recommendations. In addition, a public comment hearing will be held during this regular meeting to gather input on the use of federal funds. All public meetings and hearings, as well as the availability of draft plans for public review and comment, were duly advertised in the Goldsboro News Argus as well as on the city's website. 3 citizens provided their input during the March 25th hearing regarding restructuring CDBG and home funds within the recommended budget as it related to transitional housing, rehabilitation, and public services. No additional public comments were received during the April 13th Commission on Community Relations meeting. To date, staff has received 4 written comments from nonprofit stakeholders regarding community development housing organizations or CHODO funds, a desire for more transparency in the sub-granting process, and a desire to have a housing plan that is more detailed than the consolidated plan and annual action plan. Comments will be incorporated into the final submission of the fiscal year 21-22 annual action plan. During the Commission on Community Relations and Development meeting of April 13th, staff provided a preliminary presentation on the draft 21-22 annual action plan and budget recommendations. 2021-22 annual action plan is the second year of implementing the 5-year consolidated plan for 2020-2024. A summary of the 2021-22 drafted annual action plan, proposed activities, and use of funds is included in the memorandum that you received. Accomplishments will be reported in the annual CAPER report. Before I move to the recommendation, I'm going to introduce and bring up consultant that's been working diligently on our plan, Ms. Leah Henry. She will carry out the public hearing portion. Ms. Leah Henry is the president of Two Rivers Development Partners, a consulting and development firm based in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. Her firm specializes in creating housing and mixed-use development solutions for small cities and towns. As a consultant, Ms. Henry works for nonprofit developers, she works with for-profit developers, nonprofits, and government agencies on strategy, policy, long-range planning, and resource development. Mrs. Henry.
Good evening, Ms. Henry.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Mayor Pro Tem, council members, city manager, thank you for the opportunity to share with you what we've been working on for the past few months. I've had a terrific time working with your staff. Mr. Guthrie and Ms. Williams have been terrific to work with. And I think we've come up with a plan that's workable and that's going to get you some good results in the upcoming year. So what I will do is just briefly go over the specific activities that we are proposing to program for the upcoming year. As Ms. Williams said, the city anticipates the following allocations. And I say anticipate because while HUD has published on their websites some allocations for cities in the upcoming fiscal year, they have not actually finalized a letter to the city with these dollar amounts, and so there could be some changes from on the HUD side in the coming weeks. The city anticipates for the upcoming fiscal year that there will be $348,980 in CDBG funds and $250,738 in home funds. This tracks with your normal annual allocations. You've also been awarded a second CDBG coronavirus award of $220,749, which required incorporation into this annual action plan process for approval. Additionally, you will have approximately $174,000 $804 of prior year CDBG funds, and $665,062 in prior year home funds. Most entitlements are required to match funds at some level unless they are allowed by HUD to forego a match. The city will request a 100% home match reduction as it has in previous years. That would mean that the city would not be required to provide any local match for these HUD funds. Additionally, I will note that at least 70% of all CDBG funds spent will meet the low to moderate income benefit test within a 3-year time period, which is required by HUD. 100% of home funds are required to be spent for low to moderate income persons. So you will also be meeting that requirement. Here are the activities that this budget will cover. Single family housing. We propose $250,000 of home funds, $185,000 for this year, $65,000 from previous years, to support the development of houses that will be available to be purchased by persons at 80% or below of your area median income. This will be done through a request for a proposal process to allow for-profit and nonprofit developers to apply and to propose to staff the best use of these funds. Home buyer assistance, which is 0% or low interest forgivable down payment assistance loans to low to moderate income home buyers, is at $60,000. That will assist at least 3 people. Public facilities and improvements. For a number of years, you have used $150,000 annually of CDBG funds to pay for the debt on the Foster Community Center, and you will do that again. We are also proposing $50,000 of previous year CDBG funds to support a universally accessible playground in an existing city park. This is a public amenity that does not currently exist in Goldsboro. $50,000 will not pay for the full cost, but it will provide staff with a launching board to raise additional funds. Public services are statutorily required to be paid to nonprofits, to be granted to nonprofits. It's 15% of the CDBG annual allocation. The reason that you see $2 amounts here is because the delay, because of COVID, in receiving your HUD funds for the annual fiscal year that you're in now, caused that money to not be able to be programmed. And so this upcoming year, you will spend this current year's public services funds as well as the upcoming fiscal year. Project delivery at $20,000. What this allows is for you to use CDBG to pay for the direct rehab activities that deliver rehab projects. And so in this instance, you will use $20,000 of CDBG to pay for project delivery for the urgent repair program, which we will get to in a moment. The next is the largest single piece of money, multifamily development. We are proposing $500,000 be used to support multifamily rental housing. I know that earlier you discussed one potential project. We did not list that as the use because it is not written in stone that that would be the project. The idea being that staff would move forward if the developer is interested in ensuring that this potential project meets all of the requirements, and if not, then would do an RFP to allow other potential developers to apply for those funds.
I have a question before you go any further, and this has always been a concern of mine. Why is it there's almost twice as much money going towards rental as opposed to ownership? And
generally speaking, it is because you get a lot more bang for your buck, quite honestly. Given the relatively low area median income, the amount that is required to subsidize home ownership is substantial per unit. Whereas, for instance, an 80 unit apartment complex might cost $10 million to build, and so the $500,000 is a very small fraction in order to support that many units. And so It's always a decision that each local government has to make, but generally it's just because you can support more units.
And I agree from that standpoint, but I know people literally that live in government housing that are paying more than what my mortgage payment is.
Mhm.
And they'll never own that property. And that's unfortunate. So that's just a topic I've always had a concern in dealing with. But thank you.
The next is CHOTO activity. So community housing development organizations are local nonprofits that do housing development. They are periodically certified by the local government to receive the funds. That is 15% of your home annual allocation. That's also statutorily required. This is also a pot of money that was delayed because of delays in actually receiving this year's HUD funds. And so in this upcoming year, 2 years of CHOTO activity will be made available for a CHOTA. This will also be done, I should mention, through an application process. Economic development, $30,000 of previous year CDBG funds will be used to support summer youth employment in the summer of 2022. Program administration, for CDBG programs, the maximum is 20% of your annual allocation, which is what we have put here, and for home it's 10%. As we mentioned, you will be requesting a 100% match reduction waiver, and so we just put that in for your information. Urgent repair are funds from the State Housing Finance Agency that are used for just what they say, urgent repairs on owner-occupied houses of very low and low-income persons. Generally, these past few years, the grant has been $100,000, so we have put that in with the anticipation that you will apply for and receive those funds. We have also added $50,000 of CDBG, which I do not know that you have done before. The reason that we have done this is because urgent repair is a maximum of about $10,000. And what staff often see is that folks need more than one urgent thing done. And CDBG will allow you to come alongside urgent repair if there's more than $10,000 of work that is needed in order for a person's home to be safe and decent. And if it's not needed to be used that way, then you could potentially provide up to 5 more urgent repairs.
Excuse me, ma'am. Let me ask Ms. Williams, you have a running list of urgent repair requests, is that correct?
Yes.
How many are on the list at the present time?
There are 11.
11?
11, yes, sir.
And are they all approximately $10,000?
We can't exceed our $100,000 total. So for each project, they cannot receive more than $10,000 worth of repairs.
Okay. I didn't know if you had some.
For the past
that was
year.
Carrying over. Okay, thank you.
Lastly, for pandemic recovery, we have $176,599 of CDBG coronavirus funds. So this is the second allocation minus the 20% admin. This will be subgranted to community agencies, nonprofits, or potentially used by the city itself after some further deliberation and an application process. So that takes care of all of our recommendations. Are there any other questions?
I have a
Good job.
Thank you. So as we mentioned, there is a public input process that is required for these HUD funds. We had 2 public meetings, and then now we will have a public hearing to give any citizens a last opportunity to speak publicly about the project. I should also mention that the draft plan is posted on the city's website and available in various places. Folks have until 5 p.m. on May 7th to give further written comments about the plan. HUD requires that all comments received from the public be incorporated into that document. At this time, are there any members of the public that wish to give input on the plan? Yeah.
good evening, ma'am.
Good evening,
Good evening.
everyone. I don't know if mine is input or if I just want to ask.
I was concerned as I sit here and listen. I was wondering if the project that Mr. Thomas Rice is working on down at the end of Slocum Street has been considered as a part of this plan with this money that is being given to the city. I understand that a large amount of money is being given to the city as well as to Wayne County also. And I think that what Mr. Rice is working on down on the end of Slocum Street, just before you go into the base, it is wonderful. It will bring a lot to our city of Goldsboro. And I hope that you all have looked at it and would consider buying into his plan also.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything to say? Want to speak? Ma'am. Thank you.
If there are no other public comments, then I think we can close the public hearing. Thank you again for the opportunity to work with you and to continue to work with the staff. We will incorporate all public comments received by May 7th and submit the final document with your certifications by May 15th.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Williams, I believe you have a couple of recommendations that we need to address.
Yes, thank you. So finally, I'm back to make the recommendation that by motion, City Council accept the 2021-22 allocation of funds by HUD from the CDBG CV, which is coronavirus and home programs. And to number 1, approve the fiscal year 2021-22 annual action plan and budget recommendations presented during this meeting, the meeting of City Council May 3rd, 2021, in preparation for HUD submission deadline on May 15th, 2021. And 2, to authorize Mayor Pro Tem and staff to execute and file the annual action plan along with the required certifications, the SF-424, and grant agreements that are required to receive CDBG CV, and home funding for and on behalf of the City of Goldsboro, and to make necessary changes to those documents where required by HUD.
And we have 2 recommendations. Does each of you understand what she's requesting?
I have a question for her. Ms. Williams, since the public comment period ends on the 7th,
Yes.
and you are going to include that into this, for us to, I'm just speaking for me personally, for me to make a decision tonight, it's kind of like I don't know what those comments could be. Would those comments have any influence on any numbers changing, any proposal recommendations? You know, if we agree tonight, it's kind of like those other comments that will come through do they matter?
They
I don't
do
want to say
matter.
it like that.
Right.
I'm just saying, how much would they affect what you guys do before the 15th?
Well, we're not sure. They can definitely have an effect.
Okay.
But again, they will be incorporated. So they all, as required by HUD, they have to be incorporated.
Okay.
I don't know, Ms. Henry, could you speak to maybe the chance of numbers drastically changing as a result of additional comments?
What you're asking for is for the current plan to be accepted tonight, right? So that you can
Yes.
get it in by
Just
the
in draft form.
15 May deadline.
Yes.
And then if there are any comments that council should consider at a later time, it could be amended, I believe, correct?
It can. So our options, if it's not approved tonight, our 2 options are you would come back for a special call meeting. We are working up against the May 15th HUD deadline. Or if that is not possible, then we would have to come back next month and then risk submitting it after the deadline. So those are our 2 options.
Okay, so we either approve the recommendations as presented tonight with the potential additions or comments that would be introduced and incorporated into the plan.
Yes, sir, but I still like for Councilwoman Matthews' question to be answered. I still like it.
Thank you for that question. Essentially, what will happen is that the dollar amounts and the buckets that they are in will stay substantially the same.
Okay.
HUD allows for some small changes without an amendment to the plan. but the dollar amounts in the buckets will be the same. So for instance, let's say that someone comes forward and says, we really need to do something about the homeless. Then you could, after the fact, as a staff, under your direction, decide that the coronavirus money should emphasize homeless services in their application, something along those lines. And so that's a way that you can keep the buckets more or less the same, but still take the public's input in how you actually program the money.
So basically, the buckets will be the same, but the distribution to whatever entity, like she just mentioned, with the homeless, could kind of be tweaked.
It could, yes, you have a number of areas of emphasis in your 5-year con plan.
Right.
And so your annual action plan really has to follow that 5-year plan.
Yes, ma'am.
There's not a lot of wavering from the 5-year plan.
Right.
And so these buckets actually follow your 5-year plan as well. There's room for some changes, but not much.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'm going to read each of the recommendations.
Thank you.
Independently and ask for a vote. So the first recommendation is approve the FY 21-22 annual action plan and budget recommendations presented during the City Council's regular meeting of May 3rd, 2021 in preparation for HUD's submission deadline of May 15, 2021. So that's the first recommendation. Do I have a motion to approve the recommended language?
Move to approve the recommended language.
Second.
Got a first and second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Thank you. The motion is carried.
Thank you.
Now, the next one. Authorize the mayor and staff to execute and file the annual action plan along with the required certifications, the SF 424 and grant agreements that are required to receive CDBG, CDBG-CV, and home funding for and on behalf of the city of Goldsboro, and to make necessary changes to those documents where required by HUD. Is there a motion to approve that recommendation?
So moved.
We got a motion?
Yes.
Second. I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carried. Everyone voted yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
ma'am. Okay.
Madam Clerk, I know we had someone to come up and speak for that public comment. Do you need any information from them?
On the public comment.
I mean, the public hearing. We had someone to speak. Do you need any information?
I know that's Miss Sylvia,
Oh,
but thank you guys.
Okay, next thing is,
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council,
Good evening.
staff. This is a public hearing to consider approving the incentive grant agreement with AP Emissions and Technology LLC in Wayne County. AP Emissions and Technology LLC expects to create over 96 jobs and desires to install machinery and equipment in the existing facility located at 300 Dixie Trail Road here in Goldsboro, representing a total non-depreciated investment at least $400,000 in personal property. A public hearing is being held on a proposal to provide economic incentive, AP Emissions and Technology LLC. The county and city will provide installments of $7,000 over a 3-year time frame totaling $21,000 each. Staff recommends council consider adopting a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute an economic grant agreement with AP Emissions and Technology LLC. The proposed agreement is before you, as well as Mark Pope with Global Transport is here to answer any questions that you might have regarding the opportunity.
I've got one question. Are these monies incentive-based?
Yes, that's
Mr. Pope is coming up here.
question, sorry.
Are these monies that we're going to give, are they incentive-based? In other words, they have to meet certain criteria?
Yeah, all the agreements that we usually do are performance-based agreements,
Mhm.
based on creating jobs and doing capital investments. So we
Okay.
track that and make sure that
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, may I have a motion to approve the incentive grant agreement with AP Emissions and Technologies in the LLC in Wayne County?
We need to hold the public hearing
Yeah.
first.
Mayor Pro Tem Ham, we need to have the public hearing first.
I'm sorry.
Just
Okay.
Okay.
All right, sorry. Is anyone to speak on this item? There being no one coming forward? Is there a motion?
You can just close the public hearing.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Thank you.
I make a motion that we approve the incentive, grant agreement with AP Missions and Technology.
There's a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? There are none. Motion carried. Okay, this closes the public hearing. Next item is public comment period. If there's anyone wishing to speak, please come forward. Please give the clerk your name and address. If you, oh, you're not.
I think you're just leaving.
Okay, you're just leaving. Okay, last call. Anyone wishing to speak? There being none, close the public comment period. Next item is the consent agenda, approval of the consent agenda.
Sir, consent agenda item F is presented for council approval.
I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda that includes item F, the Code of Ordinance update.
Second.
Motion's made and second. All in favor of approving this consent agenda, raise your hand, please.
Don't you do roll call?
Roll call, I'm sorry, roll call.
That's okay. Mayor Pro Tem Ham,
Here, yes.
Councilmember Jones,
Here.
Councilmember Broadway,
Yes.
Councilmember Polak.
Yes.
Councilmember Matthews.
Yes.
Councilmember Aycock.
Yes.
Councilwoman Jones, we just need to
Yes,
get.
yes, I
Thank
mean,
Thank
I said
you.
here, yes, I'm.
And next item is items requiring individual action. We don't have any, or don't have. City manager's report.
Yes, sir. A few updates. North Carolina Governor Executive Order 209, the latest executive order, removes the outdoor face covering requirement, relaxes restrictions on gatherings, and extends the capacity and social distancing measures through June 1st. If anybody wants to find the particulars, it can be found on our city website under important announcements. COVID vaccinations, the North Carolina population 18 plus years old, fully vaccinated, 40%, and partially vaccinated, 49%. Now group 5, everyone can receive the vaccine. Bryan Multi-Sport Complex has had a few things going on out there. We now have our scoreboards in place, electronic scoreboards. 3 of them were connected. The first of 3 picnic shelters have been ordered. The splash pad is in work, and on May 15th through 16th, there will be a Kettner Cup U13 boys tournament. I appreciate what DGGC did this past weekend with the downtown litter sweep. 20 volunteers filled a dump truck worth of 6,000 pounds of litter. I'd like to thank the Community Relations and Development Department for the presentation they did this evening, and also note that on May 5th at 10 a.m., the annual disability walk will occur with committee members. And on May 6th, National Day of Prayer at 12 p.m. will be a virtual event video. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you.
Actually, I could mention one more thing, if you wouldn't mind. I would also like to recognize and thank Mr. J. and Miss Amy Bauer for organizing the 135th U.S. Color Troop ceremony that was held this Saturday at the Wayne County Museum. Many thanks to those who hosted the event and Congressman Butterfield for speaking at the event. It was very well done.
Thank you. Next, we have some proclamations to read. We'll start off with Councilman Pollock.
Okay, so I'm about to read the Peace Officers Memorial Day Proclamation. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week, and whereas the members of the law enforcement agency of the City of Goldsboro play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of Goldsboro, and whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and whereas members of the Goldsboro Police Department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas the men and women of the law enforcement agency of the City of Goldsboro unceasingly provide a vital public service. Now, therefore, David Ham, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Goldsboro, North Carolina, call upon the citizens of the City of Goldsboro and upon all patriotic, civic, and education organizations to observe the week of May 10th through May 16th, 2021 as Police Week, with appropriate ceremonies and observances in which everyone may enjoy in commemorating law enforcement officers, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their community and, in doing so, have established for themselves an inviolable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. I further call upon the citizens to observe May 15, 2021 as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of those law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community or have become disabled in the performance of duty. And let us recognize and pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and to fix the seal of the City of Goldsboro, North Carolina, this third day of May 2021.
Thank you. Councilman Broadway.
This is a good one to read simply because of the two we have, two great city clerks. The Municipal City Clerk Week Proclamation. Whereas the office of the Municipal Court, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world. Whereas the office of the Municipal Clerk is the oldest among public service. And whereas the office of the Municipal Clerk provides a professional link between the citizens and the local governing bodies and agencies of government at all levels. Whereas municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all. And whereas the municipal clerk serves as the information center on functions of local government and community. And whereas municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the office of the municipal court through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and annual meetings of their state, province, county, and international professional organizations. And whereas it is most appropriate that we recognize the accomplishment of the office of municipal court. Therefore, I, David Ham, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Goldsboro, North Carolina, do recognize the week of May 2 through 8, 2021 as Municipal Clerks Week, and further extend appreciation to our city clerk, Melissa Capps, our deputy clerk, Laura Getz, and all municipal clerks in the vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to the communities they represent. In witness thereof, I hereto set my hand, cause the seal of the City of Goldsboro to affix on the third day of May 2021.
Thank you. I saved the last one for myself because it's near and dear to me. It's Military Appreciation Month Proclamation. There are 4 of us in this room tonight that have a combined approximately 86 years of military service to the nation. And presently, there's 1,300,000 men and women on active duty. There are 800,000 reservists serving. And there are 20,800,000 retirees that have served this country. We all owe all of those a debt that cannot be repaid in mere words. But I think it's appropriate that we recognize and show our appreciation to the military each year. And this is the proclamation. Whereas our brave servicemen and women their families, and their loved ones share in the support and sacrifices necessary for our freedom. And whereas this proclamation marks the beginning of Military Appreciation Month, a month in which the Department of Defense and our grateful nation will honor the courage, commitment, and selfless service of our military. And whereas community members, businesses, military bases and posts, and other organizations are encouraged to recognize military members and their loved ones with special events such as family activities, community gatherings, sporting events, retail discounts, and other forms of special recognition throughout the entire month of May. And whereas military-connected non-profit organizations, military service organizations, and other military service providers, both public and private, are encouraged to band together to honor and serve our military families and their loved ones during the month of May. Now therefore, I, David Ham, Mayor Pro Tem, do hereby proclaim May 2021 as Military Appreciation Month and officially recognize the many sacrifices made by our veterans, service members, wounded warriors, their families, and their survivors, as well as the vast network of organizations that serve these heroes across the state. And witness whereof I have unto set my hand and cause the seal of the city of Goldsboro, North Carolina, to be affixed on this 3rd day of May 2021. That ends the proclamations. We're going to go in closed session, but before we do so, do I have any comments that the council wants to make? And I'll start with you, Mr. Aycock.
Not just during the month of May or the week of May 17th, 10th through 17th, but anytime you see a serviceman or law enforcement, stop and thank them for their service. I'm sure it would be appreciated by them.
Thank you. Ms. Matthews.
No problem.
Mr. Paul.
Yeah, I just want to thank all the organizations and the individuals throughout the city that tirelessly advocate for the homeless, as well as ensuring that many of these individuals have a warm meal and attempt to find them shelter in preparation for the projected high temperatures this summer. I also would like to applaud the community that I represent, as well as other districts, and seeing an expansion in the Adopt a Block initiative, as it is making a more visually pleasing community. I believe that as a homeowner, I personally have a love for my community, as well as a level of accountability that ensures that it looks better instead of reversing. My goal is to one day see a Block of the Month initiative per district that not only will create a competitive nature to have a uniformed appearance, but also encourage residents to take pride in Goldsboro. And I was just like to say on record, I was glad to see my 5th grade teacher, Miss Maureen Prize, when she came up with the presentation for the mental health. That's all.
Mr. Broadway.
I just have one thing, and as we watch TV now and we look at the COVID stats, we can look and see where Wayne County is in such good condition compared to the rest. And I'd just like to thank the health department, all the volunteers, the EMTs, and everybody who have worked so hard down at the Busman plant. We've been an example, and our health department has really helped not the county, but the whole city. And I just like Dr. Jim Stackhouse and all of their staff. They've done a great job. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Ms. Jones.
Yes, I would just like to thank all the teachers and the educators for a fine job that they're doing. COVID has impacted us greatly, and not only the students, but the teachers as well. And so I want you to know that I truly appreciate you. Those individuals that work in mental health as well, I want to thank you. And I want to thank this council for working together and coming up with some really good rules for us to go by. And I'm asking that we make sure that we enforce those. And I am looking forward to continuing to work with each and every one of you on this council to make our city good.
I have no comments, but I will entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Potential litigation matters.
Litigation matters.
I'll make a motion to go into closed session for litigation matters.
Is there a second?
Second.
All approve, raise your hand. Okay,
Can give us just a couple of minutes to make sure we're off. And I'm gonna need that.
Are we finished?
No, we got that. Open back good for the live. and
Yeah,
we'll go out.
open back up and then adjourn.
Okay, we're back on, so,
Okay, we're back in, we're out of closed session, back in the regular session. Is there any further business for the council tonight? If not, motion to adjourn.
Make motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Adjourn.
Now we